name is Chrissy Clements. Everyone watches accesstv.org.
Welcome to another series of Education One. Today we have a special occasion for a special man that I've been tracking since 1970. Matter of fact, after his death. He's a guy that actually took a right-handed guitar and turned it upside down and restrung it. He actually sold out coliseums around the world. Humble guy. His name was actually James Marshall Hendrix. Born Johnny Allen Hendrix. Everyone knows him as Jimi Hendrix. The thing about today, we're going to look at the life and history of Jimi Hendrix. And right now next to me, I have one of my kids, as I say, one of my interns. His name is Marcus Harris. He's going to tell us a little bit something of Jimi Hendrix because his major is communications.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome again.
Thanks for having me back. Yes, so today we celebrate the life of Jimi Hendrix,
exactly.
one of the greatest musicians to ever live. And I can take pride in that as a black artist, that he made so much moves. He incorporated not only, he didn't want to be a hip hop artist, he didn't want to be a rock and roll artist, he wanted to be a musician, you know. He didn't want to be defined as anything, but wanted to be spread across everything so he could reach to everybody. And his audience was so grand that people didn't understand why his music was so strong. But people always said it was powerful. You just feel it. You don't even have to. Most of the times when he played, you'd have a 5-minute song. You'd have maybe a minute of words, and the rest would just be him jamming out, and going crazy. So I definitely can appreciate the musician aspect and the artist aspect.
Looking at Jimi Hendrix's history and looking at his background, and his father was a humble man, and his father actually let Jimmy do whatever he wanted him to do, but he knew he was going to be doing something great. And if you read the life of Jimi Hendrix, Hendrix he was a little bit all over the place. He got himself in trouble a little bit, and he was actually hijacking cars. And when he started getting older, the judge said to him, either we go to jail or we go into the service. When he came out of the service, that's when in the service he met, Billy Cox. Yep. And I think it started from that time on, because you can see that from when he met Billy Cox, he started meeting other people like Little Richard, and he started hanging out with the Isley Brothers. He played with a lot of everybody. He just wanted to play, as you said. And then as his fame or his guitar play got better, I said to myself, and I keep reading his books, like, Are You Experienced or Midnight Lightning, when people write, or they had A Room Full of Mirrors that came out about a year before last, one of his last books that was written on him, and the people are still alive. And the funny thing about this is, I said, when you look at Jimi Hendrix, you never knew that he was actually a famous, rich man. Right. You never looked at him like that, because when he was on the Dick Cavett show, you know what Dick Cavett said to him?
Wait.
He said, look, I'm not the best guitarist. He said, there's other people better than me.
Right. He said, I'm the best in this chair, though.
He says the best in this chair. But when you talked to Santana, you talked to Eric Clapton, or when you had the movie Jimmy at Berkeley, or Jimmy in the West, or just Jimi Hendrix's experience, just Jimi Hendrix's period, when you talk to these people like they was in the Village, or when they was in Seattle, you can see that he was just a humble person. Right. One thing I liked about this guy is that they didn't make left-handed guitars back in the 60s. So he took a white Stratocaster and he turned it upside down and restrung it. So when I tell people that are in music or communications like yourself, He had a PhD in brilliancy. He didn't have a PhD, but his PhD with that guitar.
Right.
So, you know, I talk about Jimi Hendrix all the time because, you know, if you take the drugs away, you can see the man was brilliant. You know, I mean, God sent people like him every 1,000 years, like Janis Joplin left us a few months right after Jimi Hendrix. Then Stevie Ray Vaughan, when he got himself correct, he crashed into a mountain, still the age of 27.
And Janis Joplin, she really made it big because of the Monterey Pop Festival.
Exactly.
With Jimi Hendrix and also Otis Redding.
Otis Redding, yeah.
But sidebar from that, even as far as you mentioned the drugs with the musicians, you know, a lot of these musicians, that level of fame is so high and it's so unlikely to be attained by the average person that when they get there, they have no one else, you know, to talk to. They have no one else to really. So when they depend on that drug, as in, you know, all right, this is gonna relax me. This is gonna give me what I need as far as, you know, to be able to handle everything. Right. You know, because that is a lot.
It's a lot.
You know,
it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure because you can see when he came out of the service, you know, he was like so profound of everyone knew who he was. But then again, he was the type of person always was in the background type of thing. He didn't have the greatest voice, but you knew when he sung. You knew when he played. So, you know, as time went on with Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, which Mitch Mitchell died a couple of years ago, he was the last, they said in the newspaper, last of the Experience. He switched over and went into the band of Gypsies late in his career because there, you know, there's that pressure on him. So when he got Buddy Miles and Billy Cox.
That was the last band he formed.
The last band he formed. And when he did Live at Fillmore East, that was one of his greatest albums other than when he was in London, when he did Purple Haze, whatever, of the Double Jacket album. But he really didn't get paid for that because he signed so many different contracts with people. You know, they said, oh, man, they didn't really make any money. Take. But he just liked to play. I think the most fascinating thing I thought of Jimi Hendrix was when everyone talked about him, I heard nothing negative, you know, nothing negative about his life. It's just something that God put him here for a brief moment, and he took him. In 4 years, they said in Billboard, in VH1, I watched VH1 last year, of the top 100 entertainers, dead or alive, he's ranked 5th or 6th in the world. That's great. And he's been dead over 40 years. And, you know, he beat out Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson. He beat out Otis Redding, a lot of people that been at their plateau. Right. But it's something about when he was on with the Rolling Stones magazine. He'd been on Rolling Stones like 5-6 times. The first Rolling Stones magazine, he was on there, sold out. And every time he comes on the Rolling Stones magazine, the issues just leave it just like that. That's just the power that he has, even though he's been dead. Right, and they say that he's one of the only artists that have the power to end wars. Exactly. I mean, if this guy was alive to this day, I'd be with him. But I will say is that in the last couple of years, I try to reach out to his family. And in the last year and a half, I've been emailing and trying to talk to his sister and administrator, Mrs. B. I call her Mrs. B because the thing about it is that when I started MC Square, and what you know, New England Talent Search, is basically not of talent of actually like The Voice, whatever, it's talent within education. Right. I built a program around Jimi Hendrix. And just to show the educational side with the music side. And how it coincides. And I feel that if you can actually take the music side into education, you can go any part of communications or music that you want. Right. From a consultant, even though you can even play. Definitely. But, you know, I try to look at it the way that maybe, you know, Jimi Hendrix would look at it. And why things are the way it is. He did Machine Gun when it was the Vietnam War. Right. Now it's a different war within education and people living and dying. It seemed like the world actually went backwards since he died. So between him, King, and Kennedy, all these people, Patrice Lumumba in Africa, all these people that died along the way, I had to look at the whole era of 40 years, over 40 years, how this thing actually came to place.
Because that was one big movement. It's
One large movement, yeah.
You know, to get us to where we needed to be. Now we're able to get degrees in communication and stuff like
Right.
that. Back then, it wasn't necessarily needed,
Right.
nor was it maybe as available as it is now.
Right.
So, and Jimi Hendrix did it when, you know, he didn't have a degree in music. He didn't have this degree. He couldn't even read sheet music.
Right.
You know, he just played
He
how
just
he
played.
felt.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So it was that right there is huge to me. Like I can play the piano a little bit.
Right.
You know, I can play around with the guitar.
Right.
I can't do nothing good. You know, I can play around the piano. I know
Right.
how to play Lean on Me a little bit.
Right,
But
right.
you know, when he did that, he could not read a single music, but he just felt it. And
Right.
so many songs that he made, you
Right.
know, not reading a single sheet of music.
Exactly.
And he said a lot of times, you know, that's why he messed up, because
Right.
he was just going off the feel. And so he's just like, oh, wait, what was that one I just hit? You know, so he's trying to repeat the
Right.
strum and everything. And the guy's just going with him. Even when he did Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock.
Right,
yeah,
right.
That was impromptu.
Right.
It wasn't planned. He never recorded that before.
Right.
And it actually ended up getting recorded because it was so popular
Exactly.
at Woodstock. So and then if you actually you know, I obviously wasn't there. I wasn't born yet.
Right.
But if you see the video of it, you know, you see the I believe it was Mitchell on the drums.
Was Mitch Mitchell on drums.
And you know, he's like, it's like he at first he didn't know what to do. He's trying to go along with it. He's like, and he had to stop, you know, because when he was just riffing,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like you could not make nobody made a sound in that
Right.
whole place.
They waited 3 days
Yes.
until this guy came. 3 days. Jefferson Airplane came. Creedence Clearwater, Richie Havens. You had Santana. You had so many different people come. But these people waited for the last moment to hear this man play.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was a little nervous actually coming out there because we didn't want to disappoint anybody. I don't think they did.
Maybe that's why he had his eyes closed the whole time.
You know, but the thing about it is that you imagine that you had over 200, 300,000 people waiting for this man to play, and that was just crazy.
Right.
I have some information here that I just gathered that he's coming out. There's a new release coming out March 5th, and it says 12 unreleased Jimi Hendrix songs to debut March 5th of next year.
2013.
And the name of the album is People, Hell, and Angels. And, you know, one thing about Jimi Hendrix, you know, that's his stepsister. And she fought a good fight to make sure to keep his name and his integrity up, because the thing about it is she went through a court battle for a number of years because his stuff was in probate. When his father died, his father actually gave everything to his stepsister because his family, you know, it was a disarray.
Right,
And matter of
right.
fact, some of them was on drugs also. But one thing I like about Jimi Hendrix is that she went back to the people that still was alive and knew who Jimmy was, and she redid a lot of things over. And you know, right now that you know they have a park named after him. They're raising money for that. They have a lot of different things that of Jimi Hendrix. Like I'm pretty sure at the end of this week or even today out in Seattle, they're gonna have a celebration for Jimi Hendrix. Every year they do out in Seattle.
No, that's where he was born, right?
He was born out in Seattle. You know, he was half and half. He was half Mexican, half Indian. You know, this guy was black. He was mixed. The thing about it is, when I look at this guy right here, this gentleman right here, a person that I never met, but a person I wish I knew, you can see that today, even though he's been dead over 40 years, people still buy his stuff.
People are still representing him.
Exactly,
You know,
still represent him.
You even have the artist today. You have an artist, Andre 3000.
Right.
And when he came out, his look was just like Jimi Hendrix.
Exactly.
And that's what he was going for.
Like Prince trying to
Right.
play like Jimi Hendrix.
Right.
You got Ernest Isley that played with Jimmy, or Jimmy taught him a few things. You know, when you look at Axis Boulder's Love or the Valley of Neptune, the one I run all the time, I bought that in New Jersey a couple of years ago. And I was driving down on New Jersey Turnpike going back into New York. And everybody said, well, this guy blasted his music. I said, that's Jimmy, that's my boy. They said, well, Jimmy who? I said, Jimmy who? Please.
Jimmy H.
Yeah, you got Jimmy at Berkeley. And the first movie I saw was Jimmy at Berkeley.
Okay.
The guy goes to a high school, 12 o'clock in the afternoon to warm up, him and Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding. This guy plays till 4 o'clock in the morning. I think the tickets were only like $5 or something like that. Capacity was 500. He had like 2,000 people, 1,500, 2,000 people. And the end of the concert, when his high came down, he set everything on fire, pushed the amps off the stage and said, concert is over. Can you imagine playing from 12 o'clock that afternoon to 4 o'clock in the morning? You must have got your money's worth.
Right.
You know, today you see the concerts running for $200 or $300. This
and
guy, man,
last 2 hours, 3 hours.
You know, Electric Ladyland. Everybody knows Electric Ladyland. I mean, that's actually one of the most known albums that he came out with. Because when he came out in '67, and he was in London, and he did Purple Haze, one of his first songs, you can see that from that song on, you can see it was going to be a great one. I mean, people was packed in there. They wanted to know who the hell this guy was. They found out who he was. In 4 years, you know, before he died, he was going to get some horns and actually have a real band, but it never happened because he died on September 18th of 1970. But just looking at his accomplishments from Voodoo Child, Voodoo Chili, Hey Joe, Piece of Mississippi, you know, I mean, a lot of songs that I actually look at, you know, Dolly Dagger, you know.
So what are some of your favorite Hendrix songs?
Dolly Dagger, some of his blues songs, because you know the songs he came out in the blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan mimicked, and Ray Vaughan died the same age. I look at Machine Gun, Piece of Mississippi is an instrumental song. It stays in my mind. He going, it's all instrumental, and you can see that he plays on it. I mean, he plays on it, and The Isles Are Right, that came out a few years back. But I think the one that really stands out is really when you come out to Purple Haze. Okay. Anytime you hear Purple Haze, you're going to know Jimi Hendrix. And nobody that I know that know anything about Jimi Hendrix, when Purple Haze come out, no one else can really do Purple Haze other than him. I mean, there's other people who actually, since he died, but no one else can really do it. We're going to take a little break. We got to take a little break because I'm so excited about this thing. I normally have taken a break, but everyone is like, you know, we have to pay some bills. Right. But I'm so excited about this whole thing. You wouldn't believe it. And I'm trying to give just due to this guy. Just due. I mean, just this because it's his birthday, his celebration, and anniversary. Okay, we'll be right back. We got some bills to pay, but we'll be right back. The life and story of Jimi Hendrix. Be right back.
How do you judge a law firm's success? Cases won, money made, or what the firm does in the community? At Dressler Strickland, we know that success is just the beginning. The true measure of success is what you do with it. For 33 years, we've used our success to help our neighbors and our community. 24/7, 11/22. Whenever you need us, we'll be there. Dressler Strickland, building communities one case at a time.
First we read, then Cocoa Key. What time is it?
Time to read!
It's always time to read. Make Education and Hartford Public Schools declare reading a team sport and award a fun-soaked celebration at Cocoa Key Water Resort to the school with the most books read. Your achievement level is displayed by Make Education Time to Read wristbands.
Motivate, stimulate, educate.
Make Education makes it fun. Puerto Rico Discovery Month. Did Columbus realize the enormity of his discovery? The art, the history, the literature, the people, the music. Puerto Rico Discovery Month. It's for everyone to enjoy.
We're back. The life, the story, the anniversary, the birthday celebration of James Marshall Hendrix, known as Jimi Hendrix. To the left of me, I have one of my interns, Marcus Harris. We've been talking about, since he's a communications major at CCSU, what he knows about Jimi Hendrix and what Jimi Hendrix meant to him at his age. I'm twice his age, but again, Jimi Hendrix touches everybody because when you bring his name up, everyone knows exactly who he is. In front of me, I have Are You Experienced by Sean Egan. This book right here, people should actually read. This is one of his first biographies of who Hendrix was. And then the next book I have of Midnight Lightning. If you read this book, you can see exactly Jimmy was at another level. When he died, the New York Times said, there won't be another Jimi Hendrix. This is 1970 now. There won't be another Jimi Hendrix for another 100 years. I don't think they're going to find another Jimi Hendrix for another 100 years. Because it's been over 42 years, and we have not found another Jimi Hendrix. Personally, I'm looking for another Jimi Hendrix for myself. Because guess what? This guy meant a lot to me because of bringing me through my time, my highs and lows. And when I'm down and when I get myself bundled up into a problem, I put his music on. And same as you, right?
I actually started listening to more Jimi Hendrix probably within the last 2 months. And I noticed that, and it actually has helped me. I'm an artist myself. I write poetry and music. And just to see his versatility, it helps me. At first, let me back up. At first, I used to look at all these older artists and say, I don't want to listen to them. I don't want them to influence my artistry.
Right.
And the more I'm writing, I'm like, you know what? We all connect in some form, you know?
Right.
So I started listening more and really paying attention, not just listening, but feeling it and trying to understand it. And understanding the versatility of Jimi Hendrix, whether it's writing about war, thinking about war, writing about love, or just good vibes.
Right.
He did all types, and I look at my own poetry and I'm saying, you know, I can write about love.
Right.
I can write about peace. I can write about education. I can write about life and different aspects in different forms. And without them coming before me, you know, the question for me would be, okay, well, how would people receive me writing about different things? Maybe I should just stay in one genre just to be safe.
Right.
But Jimi Hendrix wasn't safe, you know. He did whatever he felt because it felt good. And since after coming out of the military, nothing negative could be said about his life, you know, besides, you know, what led to his death.
Yep.
But besides that, I take very much pride in not only black artists, but artists, period, who can remain versatile and still remain on the top level of their game.
The crazy part about it is that the stuff that actually was put together as a collection, Paul Allen bought his stuff from, co-founder of Microsoft. Now he runs Vulcan Ventures and some other things. But Paul Allen's is, I think, 100 years before his time. He can see, even though he owns hockey teams and baseball teams and basketball teams and all that, he can see the brilliancy in a man that lived for, you know, for a short period of time in what he did. Not because his stuff is gold, is that the man had a true heart.
Right.
And I think that, you know, when God sees someone like this, it seems like he always takes the good, always leave the other fellas. I mean, you know, Santana's still here.
He's a great
You know, I mean, he's still
Guitarist.
here. I mean, he played with him. I mean, there's other people still here. The Stones, you know, Mickey Jagger is still here. You know, you have Townsend from The Who is still here. That hung out with this guy. Bob Dylan, he loved Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan could have been like Hendrix, but look, his stuff is a little folksy. And you have to acquire a taste for Bob Dylan. But Bob Dylan's brilliant himself. And he stays in the shadows, if you think about it. He came to Mohegan Suns. That thing was sold out like in a day. People love Bob Dylan.
Now, didn't Jimi Hendrix write a song for Bob Dylan? Was it The Watchtower?
Yeah, it's they both collaborated,
Both
you know, but, you know, when you look at the stuff that he wrote, there's nobody else can really think of stuff like that.
Right.
You know, I mean, you look at Hey Joe, or you look at Dolly Dagger, you know, really, it's really almost like a prostitution type of thing, but you know, she melted people down, you
Right.
know, and how the song
She
goes.
drink
you know,
your blood.
You know, drink your blood as a
From
jagged
the
edge.
jagged
You know, but, you know, it's a song that you can almost dance off of.
Mm-hmm.
But the Owls of Right is something that when, you know, these guys put the music together, you have to almost think like Jimmy. You know what Jimmy's really thinking. It's not like his sister is just putting stuff together.
Right.
She has to sit down and says, you know, what my brother was thinking. Because they have in the books, they have a picture when she was a little girl.
Right.
She was in her 40s, almost 50 years old. And Jimmy was like 25, 26 years old. So that's a large gap. Mm-hmm. And he's reaching, he's sitting over her, she's sitting down. And you imagine, she has like 2 buildings on her back to keep up an idol that it should never die. Mm. You know, what I want to say in this is that, and I have to do due diligence to this. Last year, Jimi Hendrix came out with Experience Hendrix. Okay. That Jimi Hendrix they want to do a park. And he built a Jimi Hendrix Foundation. And addresses a P.O. Box 78689, Seattle, Washington 98178. Local phone number is 425-221-9832. They're looking for donations to actually do this park up in Jimi Hendrix's name.
Okay.
So again, it's Jimi Hendrix Foundation, P.O. Box 78689, Seattle, Washington 98178. The local phone number is 425-221-9832. As I say to the listeners and the viewers been with me for the last 6-7 weeks, out of all the shows, this show touches me the most. And I'm going to tell you why before we end this show. There's a lot of things happened to me in the last 12 years. My mom died and other things happened to me personally. But Jimi Hendrix music kept me going throughout. And I said to myself, if this man can endure and write, and there's other minority people shove their backs on him, because he's the one who created acid rock. No one else did. So when he went into the band of Gypsies, he says, hey, you know, I also got some powerful black people. But Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell was the heart of Jimi Hendrix. And they really realized that. So when Mitch Mitchell died a couple of years ago, I'm pretty sure that pretty must have bugged this guy, because Noel Redding died and Jimmy died before Noel Redding and all that. But the thing about it is that when you sit down and look at the biography on PBS or CPTV and look at this guy, you wouldn't believe some of the things he done. The downfall was drugs. The thing about it is you take the drugs away, you can see this guy was like Albert Einstein. So this is one of the reasons why I named NETS, New England Talent Search, not because of talent in the world, it was because of Jimi Hendrix's brilliancy. We're looking for talent and actually in education to make someone as brilliant as Jimi Hendrix in his life. Next week, we're going to have something of a special show, and we're going to go back to our thing in education. But this was a biography with education of a famous man, the life and the history of Jimi Hendrix on the greatest day of his life when he was born. Next week, we're going to see you. We're signing off. And if it's Tuesday, it's Education 1. I see you on the internet. Peace and love. Thank you.